Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Leadership Void podcast. I'm Enrique, Vince, my co host, and we have a special guest right here from Central Florida, a Navy brother. So I'm happy we're piggybacking, going back and forth at Navy, Air Force. But today, Navy's represented, and I'm going to let Vince introduce.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Here we are culminating at middle of the month of March, and we have Jacob Werksman, who is the founder and chairman of Victory Strategies. So intrigued to hear more about what this young man is doing and his company. So let's just start off and kick it off. Jacob, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, thank you both so much for having me on. Really excited to have the platform, the opportunity to spitball with you guys. Well, let's take it back. Enlisted into the Navy out of high school. Was 18 years old. I was aspiring to become a Navy SEAL. Thankfully, successfully completed SEAL training at the age of 20. Was assigned to a SEAL team based in Virginia Beach. Shortly after that, had the amazing opportunity to go to sniper school, became a Navy SEAL sniper, and then did 2 deployments with my platoon at the team in Virginia Beach. And then that took me to a little over 6 years in the military. Transitioned out in 2018. Was able to get my undergrad degree while I was active duty, utilizing tuition assistance. Transitioning out, started Victory Strategies, which we could talk a little bit more, here in a couple of minutes. And while I was doing that, got the amazing opportunity to undergo an executive MBA program at Harvard Business School. So that was an incredible opportunity for me to really develop my business acumen before or while simultaneously, starting a company and going the entrepreneur route. Since then, recently married last year, no kids, no animals, bought our first home here in Central Florida, 1979 fixer upper. So we've been getting a lot of elbow grease into the house, as many probably of your listeners and you both can relate to. Our team's, with Victory Strategies, our team's 20 strong, and we're continuing to grow and engage with some pretty notable companies. So that is me, and I think that would probably be 60 seconds or less. So over to you guys.
Outstanding. I love to hear these stories of success right after post, service. And the reason why is, it doesn't end there after service, right? It's just beginning. And so you've done a marvelous job segueing into your civilian life through education and through building your company. And so let's talk a little bit about Victory Strategies. Tell us about that.
Yeah, thank you. So we are a leadership development and assessment company. What's unique about us is, when I found the company, took a market analysis. Okay, what exists, right? There's leadership consultancies already a niche market, and I really saw only 2 models. It was either they were exclusively a military leadership consultancy, or they were exclusively a private sector military leadership consultancy. And so I said, well, why don't we fuse the 2, right? Because a lot of individuals had this appetite for, the dollars and cents, the analytical, the data-driven side, the practitioner side from the private sector. But then a lot of private sector folk also had this thirst for, hearing from special operations military communities on what leadership is and how to deploy it. So we combine the 2. What's unique about us is we're about 50-50. So half of our team is comprised of elite practitioners from the private sector with no military experience. We're talking high impact entrepreneurs with successful exits. We're talking Fortune 50 executives. And then on the other side of the house, we have our special operations military members. So fighter pilots, Top Gun instructors, Navy SEALs, Green Berets, pararescue jumpers, et cetera. And so the majority of our services, speaking events and keynotes, group coaching and executive coaching, leadership development curriculums, workshops, and team building events, we try to co-facilitate them. So, almost all of those are executed with one team member from the Victory Strategies team representing the private sector and 30 plus years of experience there. And then also on the special operations side. So it's a good marriage. We've gotten great feedback from a lot of our clients to date. And no matter what our messaging or curriculum and content we're delivering, it's always resonating with someone in the audience because, depending on whatever experience it's coming from, it's resonating with the individual in the audience's experiences as well.
No, I love the strategy, and hence, I guess that's one thing came out of the name, Victory Strategy, right? What you're doing, but understanding the pivots that have been going on through last year, we celebrated anniversary of COVID-19. How are you all holding up? Because you do mention you do keynote speaking and training. So how are you holding up, and what are you currently doing?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Vince. It was interesting. I would like to say it was because of our brilliance and business acumen, but the reality was it was just coincidence. Last January, we started heavily going after building our virtual platform. By coincidence, 2-3 months later, COVID hit, and it started shutting down business across the United States and the world. And that's where we really had to, fire on all cylinders to really perfect our virtual platform. So, thankfully, we had already had our foot in the door with a virtual platform. We were ready to pivot. And what we saw was a lot of our clients utilize the time strategically, right? They said, okay, a crisis is happening. It's affecting my organization and the globe. Now's not the time to push away crisis management and leadership experts like Victory Strategies. So thankfully, a lot of our organizational clients brought us in closer and said, hey, we're really leaning on your expertise, your advisory, et cetera, in this crisis. So obviously our team building events have gone virtual. And so we've had to get really creative with engaging with some clients and teams that we've aligned with from a virtual standpoint. But as far as our service offerings, we've gotten creative as well. So now we're not just, delivering a 60-minute presentation. We've pivoted to a format we call our Ignite calls, where for a lot of companies, they meet on a consistent basis, whether it's weekly, biweekly, or monthly, for a 60-minute, 30,000-foot Zoom call. Well, we've said, okay, to break up Zoom fatigue, why don't you, hire our team? One of our individuals can come in on a weekly basis, deliver 15 or 20 minutes of high impact content that can not only be exciting and put the viewers of your team call on the edge of their seats, but it can also be action oriented, where it's not just motivation, it's actually motivation followed by action. So they can take away some content curriculum and start applying it in their lives immediately to instill impact and ignite growth within their teams.
Yeah, that's a great way of getting in closer. And you mentioned that, hey, a great decision on the part of the organizations to pull you in closer during the time where a lot of people did push and say, hey, hey, we don't know the financial status. We don't know where the world's going. We want to keep the purse close. Yeah. And understandably, right? These are crazy times. You had to step back and reassess, what the thing is and how it was going to impact you. But you actually had the reverse. And that's so good to hear, because everybody deals with crisis in a different way. So you mentioned what you do and what you're doing. What does the future look like for Victory Strategies?
Yeah. We're constantly trying to define that and change it and revise it as we should be on a consistent basis. But I'll tell you, we're really liking building intimate relationships with our clients. One thing we really tried steering away from was one-off engagements, right? It doesn't do us or the client any good to bring us in and deliver, a 60-minute presentation without us, embedding, becoming a teammate of that organization, and then building a long-term relationship so we can really understand the nuts and bolts of their company and processes and procedures. So with that regard, we're going to continue growing our team. We're going to try to, solidify our brand reputation throughout the country and eventually the world. And, we're going to try to build up long-term, meaningful relationships with companies that think like us, right? They're creative, collaborative, they're high impact, they're growth oriented, they're driven, and the leadership teams are humble enough to say, yeah, we're good, but let's get to great, and let's do that with Victory Strategies.
No, absolutely. I definitely encourage folks to continue to grow, and changing a culture is not just a one and done. It does take time. And here we have Victory Strategies doing some great accolades and great things to make that happen. So let's just dive now a little bit about your own professional development and hence leadership development, right? Leadership void. So what professional development areas do you focus on to improve your capabilities as a leader?
Yeah, that's a question I get often, and rightfully so. It wouldn't make much sense for me to own and operate a leadership development consultancy if I wasn't a practitioner myself, right? So I've done a handful of things, and I'm consistently open to ideas and more ways to improve. Of course, I would say I really liked the model when I was active duty military of being able to attend school while also having my full-time job. It provided me with a great growth opportunity. I liked that opportunity so much that when I transitioned out, I looked at executive MBA programs and was thankful enough to do it at Harvard, simultaneously while growing and operating Victory Strategies. So I've liked that model so much that I've taken into the doctoral endeavor. And so I've recently enrolled last fall at Crummer Graduate School of Business's executive doctorate program. So I'm continuing that. That's another 3 years if I finish on time, where, I'm learning things in academia and then being able to apply it, in real world as a practitioner and vice versa. So that's been a meaningful platform and opportunity for me to continue my intellectual growth. And then, on the mentorship and coaching aspect, I myself have, a half a dozen coaches and mentors, individuals I consider, experts in their craft, thought leaders, et cetera. They've been very successful. And so I try as much as I can to engage with them, primarily from me as the mentee, them as the mentor role on a consistent basis. And whether that's, catch up phone calls, lunches, cups of coffee, or dinners with our spouses, that's a huge piece of my personal growth and development.
That's wonderful. And you mentioned it while you was mentioning it, I was laughing over here. Yeah, you're right. We often go and do a job, and then we end up lacking in getting that same advice that we need. But perfectly stated. It sounds that you are handling yours first, which is, I love it. I love you handling yours first before you go out and handle somebody else's, and that's great and good on you for that. Now, there are emerging leaders. We both were emerging leaders. Vince was an emerging leader, and at one time we needed some type of advice. What kind of advice did you get while you was emerging as a leader that has carried you on through now, and you can share with somebody else?
Yeah, I'm still an emerging leader. I mean, I don't think I'll ever stop, and until the day I die. So, there's some people that have been saying white belt for life, and I couldn't agree more with that analogy. That's me to a T. So, the biggest advice I've gotten and I give is, you have to take action. So you have to be the one to attack your windshield. You have to be the one to attack life, grab the bull by the horns, however you want to describe it. And it starts with discipline, and it's followed by intention. It's followed by action. And, a lot of the times, whether you're working for an organization or a company, someone is setting your standard for your life. And I couldn't disagree with that more. Whether it's in a professional environment or personally, you need to set your standard. And there's never going to be a great time to do something. There's never going to be a great time or the perfect opportunity to start out on an endeavor or achieving a goal. You have to decide when it is, and it's right now. So my biggest piece of advice for emerging leaders is get after it. Come up with a list of priorities, and then label them as your macro goal, whatever's the big accomplishment or goal you want to achieve, and then also identify your micro goals. What are all the small things you need to achieve in order to accomplish that big goal? And then get after it. I mean, stop waiting around. Get out there and start working, man.
I love it. Go after your own goal. You set your own priorities, and you said these three: discipline, intention, and action, folks. So that's definitely a great advice from a white belt and emerging leader for life. So I love that as well. You stay humble and stay to the ground. So understanding that with advice, also we deal with challenges, and understanding that that's always in the change is inevitable, but growth is optional. How do you yourself, Jacob, handle challenges you face or currently facing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a common misconception is failure is failure. Um, it's got a fail has a bad annotation with it. I often say fail is an acronym. It stands for first attempt in learning. And there's two tiers to that, right? It's your first attempt in learning, but also you can't repeat the same mistake twice. And that is proof that you learned from it. So as far as challenges, there's 1,000 challenges that are always going to be thrown at us every day. It really comes down to you being able to control your response, your emotions, your habits, your attitudes, your beliefs, all of these aspects you get to control. So make sure they're positive, and make sure you're thinking through contingency plans, and you're doing a lot of hypotheticals. What happens if X, Y, or Z happens in my professional life? What happens if X, Y, and Z happens in my personal life? How would I deal with them? Just casually thinking through that process is going to set you up for success when a challenge gets thrown into the ring. Um, and then at the end of the day, again, control the controllables. So focus on the things you can control, which are all those things I just mentioned: your habits, your attitudes, your emotions, your beliefs, your expectations, your response. Are you responding? Are you reacting? And as long as you can control all those things, you'll be ready for challenges.
Yeah, I love that because it kind of segues into the next topic I wanted to ask you, which was change, right? Things will change. It happens on a daily basis, almost on an hourly basis for some people. And so, what kind of strategies, which some of those do kind of go with change, but what sort of other strategies would you advise that someone going through a time of change they implement, or some that you are using with your team?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's 1,000 directions we could go with this based on the change that's you're currently or professionally going through. Um, Something that worked well for me was establishing like one specific thing built into my routine. So no matter what was changing in my professional regard, I always had a sanity check with my routine. And for example, I'm a huge coffee drinker. I'm a coffee connoisseur, or self-proclaimed. And so every morning I like to have a good cup of coffee. Every day within 30 minutes in a day, I like to just set aside time to think and strategize, do nothing else. And then I love, staying active and being fit for 36 minutes a day. So as long as I can accomplish those three things, regardless of whatever change or circumstances are getting unraveled in my realm, I'm ready for it. Um, and I know that doesn't sound often, but it's also building repetition and muscle memory to change. In the military, it's something a lot of us can relate to, whether it's a deployment or just getting orders out of the blue or getting assignments out of the blue. You have to be willing and able and flexible and accustomed to just quickly adapting and pivoting to change. Same things. It's the same in the private sector. And so I think it's shocking and it's ironic that not as many people are willing to embrace that uncomfortability and get comfortable uncomfortable, uh, and just own it, and embrace the uncomfortability that you're faced with rather than looking at it and pushing away from it.
Yeah, I remember we used to say embrace the suck, right? In the military, like, oh my God, it resonates. But it's so much advice, so much strategies and opportunities to grow what you shared. And I love your acronym. First attempt in learning is fail, right? For failure. So folks, unfortunately, this is only a 20-30 minute show. But for those who want to know more about Jacob, you can reach him or his company. So let's ask him, how can you be reached, either Victory Strategies or yourself?
Yeah, thanks for asking. We have an Instagram page, we have a LinkedIn page. You can just type in the search Victory Strategies and give us a follow. We're pushing out daily content. On our website, you could follow us at www.victory-strategies.com. And then personally, you can reach me at my first name, Jacob, spelt Jacob, Jacob, at victory-strategies.com.
Outstanding. And then we're going to make sure that that is part of the show notes and part of the video so they can contact you. Now, if you wanted to contact us here at the Leadership Void, we entertain your emails, your comments on the show. If you would like a specific topic on leadership to be covered or a specific guest, let us know via the leadershipvoid@gmail.com, and we will entertain that. Now, we have to thank you, Jakob, for spending your time with us today, sharing your wisdom and sharing what your company is doing. We want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you both. So honored to be able to come onto the platform and share some thoughts with you guys. So thank you so much.
Man, we definitely wish you become a worldwide entity in the near future. I know it's going to happen. I definitely have that vibe. So congrats on that. As you know, we continue this weekly. We have our next conversation with another wonderful and dynamic veteran who resides in the greater Seattle area. So stay tuned for next week. But also want to share that we have a winner and we have reached our goal, as you know, of our 100 subscribers. That book right there, The Prairie to the Pentagon, the winner is, and you've heard it already, is DJ Durante. So congratulations. Hopefully we'll get a picture and send it out. But thank you for everybody who made us reach our goal. And another thing we love to do is give back. And we do that through Radio Check, which is the 1st and the 15th of every month at 1900, 7 o'clock p.m. Just a time to check in with our buddies, buddy check, battle check. Please, 1st and 15th, Radio Check. So again, for today, Jacob was here, shared a little bit about Victory Strategies and his journey. So I hope you learned a lot of little tidbits of nuggets he shared. But thank you, Jacob, again. And we see you hopefully around the corner in Orlando.